My name is Anthony Chavez, and I go by the name of Oso, which means bear in Spanish. And I live in California, was born in Virginia, grew up urban, Navajo and Mexican American. My parents grew up picking crops in California and escaped from that when my dad joined the Navy. They found out he had a near photographic memory, and he went on to have a brilliant career with the federal government. And why this is important is because in one generation he was able to break the cycle of poverty for our family, for our little family. And yet, despite all the worldly success that we had as a family and have enjoyed, all 6 siblings and my dad and my mother, our family lines on both sides have been decimated by complications from diabetes. And so I came here, a lot of circumstances, but my principal purpose was a promise I made to my mom, is that I would bring back the old ways to the family. They've been lost to us for a whole generation, but also break this cycle of disease, because I have nieces and nephews that are at risk of dying from this disease too. And you know, they say that Indians and Mexicans are 2-time losers when it comes, so if you have both genes in your family, chances are you're going to get it, even though we found out it's not necessarily a genetic disease. But it's decimated our generations for 3 full generations now, and it was time to make a change. So this January, after having a heart attack 2 years ago, my condition began to escalate and worsen. I was taking 200 units a day of insulin to control my sugar, but I was bedeviled with these infections in my legs. I had MRSA, antibiotic-resistant staph, and it devours the tissue right off the bone. I mean, it looked like a flesh-eating bacteria. And I had it in both legs. First I got it in one, then the other, now it was 2, and this was over the Christmas holiday. So I ended up in the emergency room. Kelly took me to the emergency room to get treated. And it was there that wisdom prevailed on my condition.
So we were in the emergency room, and the resident said, we're going to have to keep you overnight to put you on IV antibiotics because this is pretty bad. And then came back, and for some reason they had changed their minds and said, well, we'll just send you home, and you're going to take this and just call your doctor, or come in if you have to if something gets worse, but keep an eye on it, be in touch with your doctor. And they left the room, and I looked at Anthony and I said, I can't do this. I can't take you home like this, and I can't do this, any of this anymore. We can't do this. So he made me talk a little more, and then I kind of lost it a little bit. He said, tell me more. And I just found myself crying about everything that felt out of control, and that I was constantly worried he was going to lose a limb, have another heart attack, die slowly. And it was just a lot to be trying to support him, and at the same time just not knowing what to do. Frustration, sadness, and just a lot of heavy feelings and worry. And so he said, okay, we'll change this. I'm going to look into this. And he had a little bit of a little time of bargaining going on. That was January 5th or 6th, I forget, but there was a program that started at the end of January. And he's like, oh, but I want to be here for Levon, our son's basketball season. And then then there was one in May, and he said, well, May, but then there's graduation. We've got family coming. There's one in July. And me and Levon looked at him. And he said, we'll let you go for January, but you're going in May. And this was obviously the time that he needed to be here. So yeah, it was one of those enough moments, and I found myself at one point saying, I wish I'd said enough sooner, but I don't even know if he was in a place to make the choice for himself. He had pretty much gotten that far gone, so yeah.
I'd heard about the Tree of Life Center through the documentary, There's a Cure for Diabetes. And I saw a video, I think it may have come out before the actual finished film, some kind of a bootleg tape a friend sent to me. I don't know, I wasn't formally edited, but it was beautifully done. And so before I had my heart attack, I thought, wow, that could be a solution for me. But then the heart attack took me under for a good year, where I lost my bearings and my balance, and all I was trying to do was stay alive and not scare everybody that I was going to die. Remarkably, I survived it. I had 4 stents put in, and I was being a good boy, going to my doctor, working with my doctors, but come to find out the recommendations were not helping me get better. My sugar was getting worse. It was escalating, and without insulin, I was over 300, after just eating a simple breakfast. And so when the MRSA started, I realized that the infections just couldn't be fought anymore. My body was starting to shut down. So Dr. Cousins was always in the back of my mind as a possible solution. And I got in touch with my father, and he has a touch of the disease. He's managed to keep it to a low roar. But I said, Dad, I got to do this, and for the family, and it's time to fulfill the promise to my mom. And so he loaned us the money to pay the basic cost to get here and cover the program. And as much as we were spending taking care of me, we'll be able to pay him back, with interest if that's what he wants. He's gifted it to us, I think. But we were economically we were being punished, physically we were being punished, and most of all spiritually, because all the medical records show that I was just being crossed off the list. They were keeping me comfortable, they were keeping my sugar down to to a low point, but I was taking so much insulin it was going to be just a matter of time before I came down with some serious cancer or something. So that brought me here. I had to be brought to my knees, in a sense. I'm sitting here looking at the peace pole saying, it says, may peace prevail on earth. There's an old Catholic hymn that we used to sing saying, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. I've known that song since I was 6 years old, but I never understood what that meant. I thought it meant just being a nice guy. But I was conflicted because my favorite Bible story was the prodigal son, and so I burned the candle at both ends for a long time. I was an alcoholic for 18 years, a drug addict for even longer, but got sober, and I thought, okay, I've turned my life around, I'm going to be okay. But that particular disease set my diabetic complex into place, and I didn't know it. As early as 1995, I'd get up in the morning, go to work, or go to the gym before work, and I'd work out really hard, and then I'd grab a sausage biscuit and a bear claw and a cup of coffee and run into the office. By the time I got there, my food was gone, but my feet were on fire. So I already had the signs of something being terribly wrong, and I just ignored it. I didn't go to the doctor until 2006, and they said, you're pre-diabetic. That's kind of like being pre-pregnant. And it was off to the races. It just escalated from there. So 10 years went by, taking the pills, going to the doctor every 90 days, saying, oh, my sugar's too high, and you need to exercise more, you need to eat better, but nothing to care about me and what was happening to me, and moreover, what was happening to my family. I've had this disease bad for 10 years. My son's 18, so since the age of 8, he's watched me just deteriorate until the point of heart attack. And a heart attack is the bottom. That's the bottom of this disease. That's where you end up. And I really didn't see it that way when I had the heart attack. It was only when my GP didn't come to the hospital that to visit me for the week that I was there that I thought, there's something fishy going on here. And I talked to him about it, and he said, well, this is kind of your final stages if you're having heart attacks and stuff like that. Oh, well, great, So it just made sense to take a radical step. And in this day and age, the truth is radical. And what I found here from day one, when Dr. Cousins asked us to say why we were here, and I told my truth about the generations and wanting to be healed. I came here to be healed. I was telling the truth for the first time about this, what I wanted, what I needed. I mean, during my intake interview, I was teasing Nurse Angela. I said, I couldn't even tell you the truth about my weight. I lied. I cut it by 20 pounds. I was so embarrassed and ashamed. And that's what this disease does to us. It takes away our brain power. And so I was unable to share in the truth, and my family was unraveling because I was telling them things I thought they wanted to hear instead of the truth, that my body was shutting down and that I was at the bottom. And if I go back to my old ways, it's not going to resume at the top of the hill with my toboggan all ready to go down for the same ride. I'm going to start where I left off at the bottom, and it's going to take me under. So my resolve comes from the fact that without peace, beginning with this body, I'll just resume that ride of terror. And it's a terrific ride. It's terror binding. Abject fear, waking up in the middle of the night, not being able to sleep for days on end, and getting up and having 200-point sugar, fasting sugars, not being able to eat, my stomach shrinking because I don't eat very much, but everything I was putting in my body was turning to fat. And so we learned the truth about fat, that it's, it creates leptin, and if your body's leptin resistance, everything I eat turns to fat. So through the program, through the right diet, through the raw, live vegan diet, I dropped 48 pounds. It's the most anybody's ever lost in this program. And I'm a living testament to not only having that simple victory of 48 pounds. Most people would pack up and go home and say, well, I did it. I'll just go back to what I was doing. My feeling is that there's a man waiting to discover himself in this body, that the truth of my heart lies beyond all of this armor that I've built up over time, starting when I was 14 to get big enough to take on the old man and play football and play rugby in college and do all these big physical things. I was covering something. I'm reminded of a line that says, your smile covers your heart while you close your eyes to things that are not there. And that's the way I was living. Really nice smile, real friendly guy, seemed to always be in a good mood when he was outside the house. But inside this house, because I knew my body was going. And so being able to come here and share in the food, the love, the light, the actual physical light that's in the food, it's a new path. It's a new start at life. I've been wandering for 51 years. 51 years, longer than the chosen people, turning my back on the truth because, I've had 2 bowel movements today, everything's fine. I came here one day during the fast, I was here one day for the fast, and I had 19 bowel movements. It was the peak. I counted them every day just to make sure that I was pushing the waste out of my body. I came here after taking Vicodin for 6 years for my pain in my feet. And on the day I got here, I was ready to take my daily dose, and my prescription was lost. I couldn't find it. And so I thought, okay, maybe this is the time where I just stop. And on day 6, without it, I hadn't had a single withdrawal symptom. My feet hurt like heck. And I told the nurse, Angela, about it. And she said, let me see what Gabriel recommends. And they came up with a peppermint oil, rosemary, and one other herb solution that Shanti makes. And I've been pain-free since day 6 of the fast. That's 18 days ago. And I am opiate-free for the first time in 6 years. And it changed my personality, not only to be on it, but to be off of it. And every day I just felt clearer and clearer and more filled with this light. This land that we're on, the spirits live here. They live everywhere, but it's quiet here. At home, they hover up high because of the light and the noise and the chaos. Come here, the spirits work with me. I've seen them. And compared to one other place where I go to fast and pray for the people, the Monoland in California, those 2 places are almost identical. They're old spiritual places where the old ones gather. This place is moving with life. The rocks are everywhere. They're old ones have been sent to heal us. And Brother Gabriel, he's my brother. He's my brother in the Anipi, the Sweat Lodge, the Sundance, the spirit of the bear, the spirit of the horse, the spirit of creation is here. I can't help but feel that I've been here before. before. And to come home like this and to be welcomed, not only welcomed, but to be seen for who I really am, even if I can't see myself yet, to be seen by two hearts, all the hearts that are here, but these two hearts of Gabriel and Shanti, who have worked with everyone to learn the ways here. It's infused in everyone. I've never seen anything like this. There's no garbage laying around. There's no leftover food smells. There's clean bathrooms. Everything, there's an immaculateness to it that every member of this community carries with them. And it doesn't start with task lists. It's in here. I want that. That's what I want for myself. That's what I want for my family. I want to integrate my home the way this place is integrated. The kitchen, the cafe, the workers, the food. They didn't miss a beat. Mark and the crew were just stellar during our fast. We always had juice. There was always water and tea and shade and comfort. And I want to be of service like that to my family because I saw it here and I saw how it impacted me, how it makes me want to integrate my life. I've always heard integrate, just integrate your life, bring order to your surroundings. And yeah, I'm busy. I'm working 20 hours a day. Can't you see I'm trying to make some money? Those things have just fallen apart like a log that's been burning for years, and you just tap it and the ash just disintegrates into the fire. I've disintegrated into a fire of love. And Gabriel and Shanti, my brother, my sister, my teachers, my anchus, they teach, they lead, they direct, they share, and they love. Most of all, they love. I can't learn from someone who wants to be of service to me and to teach and share if they don't love me. It just doesn't work. It hasn't worked. And I've had hundreds of teachers, mentors that really wanted to guide me through life and elevate me. They didn't love me. But what I found out here was that I had a chance to love myself. Love myself. That's the principal truth. My mother told me before she left, Priscilla Louise Martinez de Chavez, she told me she had a week left to live, and at her little going away party where she had her last little glass of wine, she was sitting there sipping on it, and I made amends with her, and I said, Mama, I'm sorry for trying to destroy this body that you carried in you for 9 months. And she said, Mijito, all I want you to know is that my only prayer for you is that you will learn to love yourself as much as I loved you the moment that I knew you were coming. How do you do that? How do we just know? I mean, is it cruising the self-help section at the bookstore? Is it, making new friends? Is it taking time out for tea for myself? How do you prove to yourself that this is love? And so I tried the same old things, cook the dishes she taught me how to cook, try to feel that love that she had for me, but it wasn't in there. It's the love of the Spirit. It's the love of the light. We hear it a lot. Be present. But I was able to complete that statement for myself, sitting with Gabriel and learning from him with the others in our program, our diabetic program. And it's be present with the divine. That completes it for me. And so there has been a lot of concern amongst our group, well, how do we do this when we get home? How are we going to have the same feeling that we have here? How do we cook the food so we feel like we feel when we're here? For me, it's that. If Gabriel impressed one thing on me out of many, many, many things, it's that you're doing this to be in the Spirit, to be at one with the Spirit, with your Creator, with your God, with Grandfather, Tunkashila, Maheo, the sacred. That's why we're here, to reflect back to God, to the Creator, why we're here. Our God is so perfect that he can't see himself except through us. He can witness his creation, but this mind and this heart, this soul that he's imbued every one of us at conception, that's the reflection. That's the great mirror from the great school to reflect back to him that we love him, that we want him guiding our lives. And so without that, this program is just a program, but it's more than that. It's more than that, what we gain here. I've read about the critics and gone back on the internet and looked at his names come up, Gabriel's names come up, is this, that, and the other. I sat in this brother's sweat lodge and watched and felt and heard and smelled and tasted the medicine of the people who shared that inipi with me, newcomers and people that had been in sweat lodges before. And I can tell you that it was my family lodge that we go to with my Anshu Michael Raymond, Dr. Michael Raymond, and Karen Whitecloud. That's our home lodge. It was the same feeling. It was gentle. It was family. And there was no ostracism about who's Indian and who's not and all this other BS that's floating around Indian spirituality. It was peace on earth. Almost all nations were represented there in that very small crowd that was there. I was moved. It would happen the first night of the fast. I sat right behind the brother as he poured that sweat. I sat next to a sister who was a heart patient, and she told me, she grabbed my hand before the lodge started, and she said, "Brother, if you let it, this place will heal you." And I needed to hear that. I needed to hear the word heal. Reversing diabetes is a fact. It can be done. But I want to be healed. I want to become myself, my true self. I want to learn the mysteries of my own heart. I want to know why I'm so drawn to this woman. I've always been drawn to her. But why? What is it in my heart that explains that to me? I've been up here most of my life. I've been rewarded for living up here. And my emotions were like currency with people. Oh, he's so sensitive. Oh, he gets it, and this, that, and the other. But when I found myself sick and on the decline, I realized I had lived too long outside of here, that I didn't know this great mystery in here. But now that I've been here, I'm open. I want to receive it. I'm asking Grandfather to imbue it in everything I do. Practice everything. Everything. Tying my shoes. Doing the dishes.
Yay.
You know, finding a way to materially support our family effort to be in abundance. All of these things that have evaded me, that have just fallen outside my care, or my bad attitude, my moodiness, my exhaustion, perpetual exhaustion. I've been exhausted for 10 years. And that's not me. That's not who I am. I had boundless energy until this disease hit me like a truck and dragged me down. But the secret to here, the secret that people who have not been here to understand it, is that message. You're doing this to be in touch with your soul, to become your soul, to become light, to eat light. Eat light by not eating enough, but actually eating food that contains light. You will become light. I don't just believe this, I have faith in it. It's the cornerstone to my faith. And I thank Gabriel and Shanti and the staff and my diabetes club and the 21-day transformation group that was here, and we merged as a single unit, and they say that we're a memorable bunch because of how much we work together as a group to support each other. Most of the time, the 4 fasts that I've been on, the 4 hamblechas, they've been 4-day, 4-night, no food, dry fasts in seclusion. And it was challenging for me to be here with the people and interact socially and everything, because I wanted to be alone and I wanted to meditate and pray. And I just gradually began to expand my time with the group members, and they were just relentless. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? How do you feel? What are you going to do next? And so I had to share all of this with them, and I wasn't used to doing that. And it was the best thing, because they they would listen and they'd look at me and then they'd just start laughing. Are you sure? Of course I have to be sure. But anyway, many, many things to be grateful for.
I got here the day before the last day. And I had 24, 48 hours, maybe less, that I came. And the first thing that happened was that I just started crying. And I couldn't really stop. It just would happen spontaneously. And, the changes in Anthony were really, really significant. The first thing I saw, I drove up at night and he was waiting outside with a flashlight. And he moved toward the van. And I haven't seen him move like that since probably like the first week that I met him in 1992. Yeah. And then just little things, I would notice him, his head is smaller. And it's not that he got his head shrunk, but his head is actually smaller. And he, I'm sitting next to him and I'm just seeing little things, like there's a person emerging, like literally physically emerging. It was tough for a while, bad moods and sometimes not, and you can listen to this, right? Sometimes not very kind. And I found myself, flinching sometimes. And I feel safer. I feel safe here. And it wasn't anything, just was, I wanted more kindness. And there's a different person sitting here. And I heard a voice on the phone a few days ago before I came that I hadn't heard in about 20 years. A really big change. So what I have observed is that it's a melding of science and spirit that I think was really the only way to reach this man who is a massive reader, researcher, really doesn't do anything half-assed at all. So I'm not surprised how much success he's had. And I have full faith that he's going to continue because I hear what you want, and it's not up to me to make you do it. Mm-hmm. And I have to learn that too. So it's changing me. I've been here a couple of days. But I think the combination of really understanding some of the science behind it that he's talked to me about how Gabriel's explained it is really simple terms, but it makes total sense. And I find myself doing this, okay, well, I know that now. I can't not know it, but what if I just want to, have something that I usually have for breakfast, It's helping me think because I'm not raw vegan. But the feeling is that every person has their path. And I think what happened in the weeks that Anthony was away was that I started to find myself again. And that was gone for a really long time.
Oh.
So, and then the spirit, I don't know what else would make me cry when I got here, but something was moving. And I felt at home. Everyone welcomed me. I know he kind of paved a path and made me larger than life, but getting here was really important. And I really think that if people do come here, that having a family member visit for a day at some point, it doesn't have to be, I'm working, I have things going on at home, we have a child at home, we have pets. I haven't thought about anything. Like I said, I'm not going to be available for work on Friday, and I didn't think about it. And I think we all need that. So for me, this was enough to start, and it appeals just for that reason. It makes sense, and it actually moves you inside.
0 Point for me has been the most timely, or the timeliest effort to bring about change. I've been through more than a few different types of training to discharge internalized racism through reevaluation counseling, internalized depression, and it's very emotionally based co-counseling and very effective for releasing stored emotions, but a little bit short on the rational piece where you examine why I would hold on to certain ideas that were related to what I've experienced in that area. What was I getting from those stories that I would always tell when it was time to sit with people and talk about my experiences? It was giving me something, and 0 Point helped me identify the rewards that the psychic rewards I was getting for that. But it's really, emotional junk food, because it keeps me in a place of the past, whereas my life in the present was being completely affected. The way I saw the world, I had all these thought forms that we learned how to identify them and approach them and ultimately dissolve them. A very simple method, but very powerful. Gabriel's an effective teacher who was telling us all along, it's very simple, don't overthink it, just follow the steps, and before you know it, we'll be doing it in the short form. And within 4 days, we were doing the short form, and I zero-pointed around close to 50 things that had been holding me back. A divorce, professional tragedy. I was blacklisted from ever teaching in higher education again, but really didn't learn any lessons other than the fact that I should duck more often. That was probably the big lesson to that. But it really affected my livelihood in the world, and I had to reinvent myself because I had these thought forms that just helped let myself down that drain. My early childhood was not. It was a good family, but there were some things about my parents, being raised in poverty, that some of those things were handed on to us that weren't very pleasant for us, and I had to be able to dissolve those thoughts around money, around love, around validation, around education. That if you don't do these things, you're going to have to go back there. That fear, just that quiet gnawing fear, it's gone. It's just gone. And I credit the 0 Point program to that. And if anyone would come here and be apprehensive about doing 0 Point because it gets into your deepest issues, don't be afraid, because I think there were only 3 of us that shed any tears over those 5 days. It's a very sober, clear, rational approach to those ideas, and you basically turn them into something that they're not, step away from them, turn them into something that they're not, like a balloon or a triangle or a kangaroo, and then you just dissolve them. You say, I'm ready to let this go. I've used these to make a world of my own making, and it has nothing to do with this reality. And in the 3rd week, we were with an open heart, looking at slides about the impact of bad food on the body, looking at the impact of antidepressants, marijuana, opiates on the brain. I mean, I was a chronic marijuana smoker from age 18 to the age of 35, and being able to see what it does to the brain. It's not a harmless drug. It's a devastating drug. The holes that it creates in your brain are dramatic, and I was able to look at that with an open heart, not blame myself. Oh, you did this to yourself. You're a bad man. I just looked at it and with a sigh of relief saw firsthand how the brain can heal if you're eating the right way, the raw vegan way. And so that was conscious eating. It followed the 0 Point. And then in the afternoons, we started preparation classes with Chef Bert, and a consummate teacher showed us how to love the food while he was preparing it. His sense of humor and his grace with his tools and just his methods. It was an inspiration. I'm a home cook. I love to cook. I can use a knife and I can chop and I can spice, but I always prepared food when I wasn't angry. That was my meter. Don't be angry when you cook the food. It'll hurt people. So I tried to just not be something. I watched this man with his full loving heart prepare recipes, and they're straightforward, but it's a lot of work. Yeah. And he was doing it in front of this rowdy bunch that was here who wanted to learn every breath of how to prepare this food, and he was still able to get it done. And I can't say enough about Chef Bert and how he reached me about, you can do this, you can practice this with your family. You start small and you add 1 recipe, and then before you know it, you've got 10 recipes. And each of those 10 can be converted into 30. There's no end to the way you can do this food. So, but the 0 Point was like walking up to that barbecue pit after it's been burning all night, and you just tap the edge of it, and all those dusty charcoals just fall away. Your grill is empty, and you think you're never going to be able to clean it out, and just a tap, and it's gone.